Hi everyone. Okay, so firstly, this is something I've written. This isn't going to be off the cuff. I also take a lot of pride in not cursing in my gameplay videos. This is going to be an emotional one, so I'm not worried about that right now. This is probably going to be really hard, but it's something I've decided I need to share, and it's going to be real. If you're a follower of mine, you've watched the origin video of my YouTube channel. The first part of this video won't be any news to you. A lot of that video wasn't scripted. This one is. I also have no idea how much I'm going to stick to it. I started this YouTube channel in 2017 with the hopes of sharing video games with like-minded people, telling stories about how these games make me feel, possibly building some lasting relationships with people like me. I wanted to reach out to people and I had something in common with and connect with them, as that was becoming rarer and rarer, and it's even more rare today. I also started it with hopes of having it become a haven for people to be welcomed, accepted, comfortable, maybe even a little cozy and safe. The world is a very, very difficult place to navigate and survive in for anyone in any capacity. I'd hoped to try and manufacture the feelings I had as a child and teenager of cozying up with whatever made you most comfortable and safe, and just consuming content that reached you. Some of my fondest memories of my youth are just watching my brothers play video games for hours on end, sometimes with pillows and blankets, other times just with a strong sense of discovery and curiosity. There were times I would be permitted to ask questions. There would be times that I wasn't. But through it all, that feeling of someone discovering a piece of interactive fiction and being able to go along for the ride made me feel so warm and happy. It's the kind of experience I tried to bottle up and provide to people in times of so much angst, struggle, upheaval, distraction, and endless negativity that our world now throws at us. In the past year, I've heard from a couple people who follow my content that I have in fact reached them on that kind of level. For that, I will be eternally grateful, and I will carry that connection for the rest of my life. What I'm coming to realize, almost as I wrote this, is that trying to create upbeat, positive videos is possibly another mask that people with depression put on to get through their daily lives. I struggle each and every day to get through some of the most mundane tasks that every adult has to tackle. Some days it's hard for me just to put a bowl of cereal together. I can't really explain why. It just is. Some days I have the energy, determination, and focus to go on a 10-kilometer walk. I did this a couple days ago. It's those crazy swings from positivity and confidence to negativity and emptiness that are usually the hardest for me to handle. I'm relatively calm, sane, logical, fine one moment, and then literally the next second, I'm stressed, anxious, and trying to figure out why. The word literally is grossly overused these days, but I mean it. You could literally drop a hat from your hand and have it fall to the ground, and in that time, my entire mood, outlook, and heart rate has changed. For the worse. I go into full fight or flight mode for no reason. Well, no good reason. Anyone watching this who doesn't deal with or necessarily fully understand mental illness, here's where I'm going to try and help you understand a little bit. I'm going to try. It's one of those things that you really can't fully understand unless you experience it, but I'm going to try. Try to imagine how you feel on a really good day for you. You're productive, loving, attentive, social, interesting, active. You're happy. Now remember the time you had maybe the single worst flu, or maybe you had COVID, or like a crippling migraine maybe. Try to think about and remember how completely incapacitated you felt. Maybe you had a loved one have to nurse you back to health, do all your housework for you, feed you, all that kind of stuff. Now try to imagine that feeling of helplessness and weakness coming to you every other day of your life, maybe even every damn day of your life. You wake up in the morning, maybe after you got a promotion at work, or you scored the winning goal at your soccer game last night. Or maybe you just finished reading the best book you've ever read, and then suddenly, you have nothing. No motivation, no energy, no focus. You are a shell of yourself, and a switch has been flipped for seemingly no reason. Try to repeat that cycle for years, every day. For no reason, no matter what great things have happened, your joy is just gone. I found this kind of randomly on a forum recently, and it kind of resonates, and it may be a better explanation. Think as pessimistically as you can about the state of the world and the state of your own life. That is now your emotional baseline. It's an impossible struggle to get better than that. Think about how you feel after a really shitty night's sleep. I mean, getting up early, having to focus at work, and being really stressed that you're going to fuck something up real bad. That's your energy baseline now. That's average. That's an everyday feeling now. Think about how you feel when you get stood up or not invited to a party or just left out entirely. That's your social baseline now. Think about how hard it is to make yourself a healthy meal or go to the gym when you're completely exhausted. That is your health baseline now. Wrap it all up in an invisible, dense fog that never lifts and no one else can see it. And so they just keep saying, "You okay?" Drive you insane, right? This is my everyday. This is my life. Lately, it's simply been too much for me to try and put on an entertaining persona and create some content. It doesn't really feel real. Looking back on the last few weeks and months, it definitely felt like I'd be wearing another of those masks that I'd mentioned earlier, and it felt like cheating. I stand by my pure gamer moniker, and I felt like a betrayal of what I am and what I want to stand for. I would have to wait for a good day, record as many episodes as I could to try and capture that temporary swing of positivity and joy. And the fact that I knew it was temporary is a gigantic part of the unconquerable struggle that I have to navigate each and every moment. I've loved every video live stream that I've put together. I stopped in early July because it felt like I had just lost something. I don't think I can put that something into words, but YouTube kind of started to feel like an obligation or work that I didn't just do for me anymore. It was a pretty easy decision to step away, but I really had no intention of stepping away for as long as I did. I had a really good thing going. Regular viewers to my live streams, which is what I've always wanted. The most views and likes on any of my videos I'd ever received. And getting some really, really nice and wonderful comments every day from really wonderful people who appreciated me and my work. Working up the energy and positivity that I felt was required to make YouTube videos had become a real struggle. It still is. I don't feel obligated anymore, but I don't get the same feeling or rush that I did before. I'm starting to believe that maybe what is missing is the other part of my formula, the other part of my YouTube blueprint, the mental health struggle, which is why we're here today. It's hard to kind of build a community around mental illness, awareness, and positivity, and reach people on that level when you don't really display a lot of symptoms of it. I've talked about it at length in my videos and on my live streams, and those were during pretty decent days or periods of my life where I felt somewhat like normal, whatever that means. I want to start showing people that they're not alone, and that the struggle is real. I'm sure there are a ton of arguments against sharing your mental health crises and problems with the entire internet, giving strangers the opportunity to judge and scrutinize and criticize. And this might be a really stupid and unwise way about going about it. But YouTube is the most effective platform of distribution that I have at my disposal. Writing all of these thoughts down has actually been incredibly therapeutic, enlightening, and kind of helpful. That's also a feeling I want to try and share with people. Keeping all these things bottled up inside sometimes feels like it's killing me. There are days I just want to stand on top of a building and just scream at the whole frickin' world and just tell them how unfair this is. So here we are. So here's my story. Likely the most prevalent issue I've dealt with my entire life was losing my father at the age of 16. It doesn't really bother me to speak of him anymore. I had a truly wonderful childhood with amazing memories, learning experiences, lessons, values, and gained a very strong work ethic that he made damn sure I had. He died of brain cancer in 1998 at the age of 50. That entire calendar year is virtually a blur now. He was diagnosed in February, had surgery in the spring, and died in September. For a happy kid with a loving family and a pretty great life, and whose biggest concern was just trying to plod through grade 10, it was insurmountable. There were a few truly heartwarming things that happened throughout that entire ordeal. Our neighborhood was filled with people I describe as true angels. As soon as word got out of my father's illness, our doorbell rang seemingly every hour, with people bringing us meals, snacks, cookies, hugs, well wishes, and blank checks for virtually anything we needed. My mom didn't need to grocery shop or cook for 6 months, maybe more. I really can't even remember. We actually had to start turning food away because we couldn't eat it fast enough, and we had nowhere to store it. The other heartwarming story comes from my school. When my father was diagnosed, I missed about 2 to 3 months of school. Again, I don't exactly remember how much. When I finally went back, the staff and teachers at my school were so incredibly kind. But there was one in particular that I'll never forget. The teachers of my classes had gathered up work packets or sheets for me to try and catch up and complete the work that I'd missed. It was daunting thinking about trying to catch up, and it was really nice that they actually cared enough to try to help. They didn't need to, but they did. The final class of my first day back was my Science 10 class. We had a student teacher that year. I won't give his name for obvious reasons. And he was pretty decent. Up to that point, he didn't really stand out as anything special, though. My entire perspective of the man changed that day. I went to him after class and asked if he knew what my situation was, and he did, of course. The whole school did. So I asked him for whatever makeup material I needed to get so I could just be on my way. He stood there at his podium, flipped through a couple of pages, and said, "Forget it. I'll take care of it all." This made no sense. I said, "That's very nice, but I need to get caught up." A small part of me thought it was a joke, albeit pretty ill-timed. But he insisted. This wasn't a joke. "What about the things I need to know for the exam?" I responded. "Leave it with me. You've got enough to deal with. Let me take care of this. Everything will be fine, I promise." The only thing I remember next is I started to tear up, just like I am now. I think I said something like "wow" and "thank you" and left. That might not be what happened, but it's the best I got right now. This young man, clearly in his early 20s, had no authority to do any of this. It's probably a stretch to say that he put his career on the line for me, but this wasn't something he could just decide without a lot of effort, probably pulling some strings somehow and getting me some major exceptions. I don't remember how the rest of that course went, and I don't remember what actually happened with my altered exam. What I do remember is that a young man who barely even knew who I was decided he needed to do everything possible to ease my pain. And he did. I'm delighted to also tell you that approximately 10 years later, he walked into my place of work, and I spotted him. I immediately put down what I was doing, and I greeted him warmly. He didn't recognize my face. I'd grown up, so I wasn't really surprised. But as soon as I mentioned the science class, he knew. Tears started streaming down my face as I shook his hand and thanked him. I told him that I will remember his name and his immensely kind gesture for as long as I lived. He thanked me and went on his way. Sorry. I've dealt with depression since the early 2000s, when I was in my early 20s. I've had a noticeable anxiety disorder and confirmed ADHD since sometime around COVID. I don't know if the COVID shutdown had any part in the cause of it coming to pass, but the timeline seemed to sync up. I quite enjoyed COVID lockdown from what I recall, actually. Not the sick part, just the fact that I didn't have to go anywhere. Over the years, I've sought counseling, psychiatrists, psychologists, and plenty of medications for my disorders. Some were useful, some made an impact, some were merely a temporary band-aid. Some just made me numb. I'm looking at you, Cymbalta. But it seems that very little has stuck as I constantly wind up back at rock bottom. Another major prevalent issue, I believe, is that I've suffered several serious back injuries through my 20s and 30s. I was a floor hockey goalie for most of those 2 decades, and I continually refused to accept the damage I was doing to my body. After the 4th time, I went down with a herniated disc in my spine, and several discussions with my very worried mother, I was finally convinced to let hockey go. I had spent a combined total of almost 2 years in a horizontal position, approximately 4 to 6 months healing time for each injury. Mostly on the floor, as the softness of a bed mattress would be a significant strain on the nerves in my spine and caused unbearable pain. To this day, I still enjoy lying on the floor. Quitting hockey truly was one of the hardest decisions of my life. That may sound odd, but I'll elaborate. As I've said, I've dealt with these mental conditions almost my entire adult life. There were some okay and or good periods here and there, but my adult life essentially has been a struggle. I started playing floor hockey with friends of mine when we lived in a party house in our mid-20s. Some of the greatest times of my life were had there. Some of the worst, too, actually. Playing there led me to join a few other drop-in groups, and eventually I got 2 regular gigs playing a goalie. They were terrific, amazing groups of guys, and I miss them dearly. The reason why hockey was so important to me is that as soon as I get to the gym, strap on my pads, and get between the pipes, everything that I worried about or was scared of in my life vanished from my head. My competitive spirit kicked in, my love for the game overcame my emotional state. I didn't have to worry about being social or interesting. And the only things that mattered in the entire world were stopping that puck, helping my team win, and celebrating a good game with them, no matter the outcome. In all of my years since my retirement, I've been completely unable to recapture that feeling. Not even close. Doing YouTube has been a very decent substitute, as I've mentioned before, but it hasn't captured and held my attention the way hockey did. I distinctly remember several different days in which I would skip my accounting classes or call in sick to my work or whatever else because I couldn't even get out of bed. Just completely paralyzed with fear and dread and sadness. The world could have been burning to the ground, and I wouldn't have moved. However, if it was Tuesday or Thursday, by 6 p.m., I'd start getting ready for hockey. Every single time. I never once called my buddies and said I couldn't make the game because of my depression. Hockey was some form of short-term cure for my depression, and I miss it. Also, not only did I lose my escape from my own brain, but I was trapped in unbearable pain on my bedroom floor for almost those 2 years, all told and combined. Pain that no matter what I did, it was there, it was unbearable, and it was unfixable. Surgeons wouldn't touch me because it was so close to the spinal cord. They said that recovery would take just as long naturally as it would take to recover from surgery. I had to take a leave from work or quit my job. I had to stop all my social things, I had to stop everything. My life stopped 4 different times. And in the middle of all of that, I also lost someone who was like a sister to me. She lived across the country, but every time we talked, and every moment we actually got to spend together was so effortless and joyful. We shared a love of baseball, first and foremost. We had many other things in common, but that was the main one. She was always supportive of my decisions, and was never afraid to offer input or criticism when it was warranted. I'd never connected with anyone like that up to that point. And she died on an operating table before I even knew she was sick. I had to find out in a text message from a mutual friend while I was sitting in a friend's truck on my way to a corporate softball tournament. I know she didn't tell me she was sick because she was sparing me from the hardship of coping with her illness and being unable to do anything about it from so far away. I also couldn't afford the plane ticket to attend her funeral. It was all so sudden and heartbreaking. I miss her every day. I see these to be some of the major factors that have wired my brain into the fragile state it's in. I also know that every event of our lives builds, molds, and shapes our emotional state and how we react to the world. I just don't know how to effectively rewire my brain to help me get through life a bit easier. I'm now on a new journey of self-discovery, counseling, and trying to come at mental illness from a new perspective. I've been seeing a new counselor for a few weeks now, and one of the very first things I told him was that I'm coming into this with as open a mind as I can conjure. However, my past experiences naturally come up, and resistance to this will probably occur. What I think I'm looking for is something new. Being told that my feelings are okay or natural, and that there's nothing wrong with what I'm going through or how I'm responding doesn't help me as much as it may help others. It's not new. I've heard it all before. I have a extremely logical and hyperactive brain, and the constant battle of emotion and instinct versus logic is one that is often more than my mind can tolerate. And my logical brain understands that there's nothing wrong with needing space, nothing wrong with wanting to be comfortable. It understands that my instinctual and emotional reactions to the world and other triggers don't necessarily make logical sense. It also tells me that right now I'm programmed and wired to perceive so many different everyday occurrences as threats to my safety, my health, and my well-being. Stupid shit that wouldn't trigger any sane or normal person. My counselor has been amazing in their acceptance of my hesitations and my barriers, as any quality counselor would be. But I have hope that things will be different this time. And frankly, they need to be. I'm an unemployed 43-year-old accountant with no real plan B, no safety net, and time's running out. The old adage that you're never too old to rings true for a lot of things. But through my journey, I've had to stop, reset, and start all over again so many times. It hurts. Whether it's ups and downs from depression, physical injury that literally crippled me for months, personal loss or tragedy, professional struggles or failed relationships. Some event or even a chemical imbalance has caused me to make drastic changes in my life and essentially start from scratch. Several times it's involved quitting a job that was leading to a promising career, moving back with my mom, moving to a new city, ending a long-term relationship, or in the case of the injuries, lying in a makeshift bed on my bedroom floor, crying myself to sleep most nights because the pain is so bad and there's nothing I can do about it. This all may seem a bit dramatic. I know there are so many people that have suffered worse things than I. But that doesn't mean that I haven't suffered. And that doesn't diminish the suffering I have endured. Since becoming an adult, I genuinely don't remember a single instance in which my life was good, relatively simple, healthy, happy, and I guess carefree as is possible for more than, say, a year at a time. And that might be an exaggeration. It just doesn't feel right. Every time I've had to reboot my life, I ask myself a question. Will this be the last one that I need? In the last several years, I always answer with, nope, you'll be back here again. And you know it. Everyone goes through ups and downs, highs and lows, good times and bad times. I don't think I'm special in that regard. But my swings are so dramatic, unpredictable, and uncontrollable that it feels like I'm at the whim of my trauma, and I just have to deal with it when my brain gets tired, which is just far too often. I've been unemployed for just over a year now, which is really weird. Since I was 16, I've either been I've either been employed full-time or in a full-time student position, or lying on my bedroom floor in pain. This has been a very unique experience. But over that time, some might say, and I've said this to myself, you haven't had a job for a year and you don't have any kids? Man, it must have just been peaceful bliss the whole time. I bet you got tons of rest, worked on a bunch of projects or pursued your hobbies, lost a ton of weight, proved yourself top to bottom. Yeah, that was the plan. I can 100% admit that I haven't wasted the entire time, but I definitely haven't used it nearly as effectively as I wanted to. Also, with the things that go through my head every second of every day, it's an actual impossibility to actually relax. For years now, I've had no desire to take a destination vacation because I'm unable to leave behind the things I'd like to get away from. Many people take vacations to get away from the grinds of everyday life, work, chores, whatever. My everyday grind is in my own consciousness. I need a vacation from myself. Without hallucinogenic drugs, it's not really possible, now is it? My brain goes where I go, and it never shuts up. Let's try to imagine that. The only thing you ever want to get away from or leave behind is yourself. It's a terrifying prospect. When I'm on or in my element, I really like who I am. It's every single moment in between those occasions that's just filled with dread. Over the last year, I've built a YouTube following, successfully uploaded videos on a consistent schedule for over 6 months, did my best to manage my health, all aspects of it, but I didn't do all the things I know I needed to do, like start counseling, push myself past some barriers, maybe try to get a better understanding of what is going on in my head, and actually try to relax. I did some. I was able to get a little bit, but definitely not a year's worth. Time was something I finally had an abundance of, and I definitely have squandered a large portion of the time that was offered to me, and I hate myself for it, and I worry that everyone else is disappointed in me too. It's extremely clear to me that this is the longest reset period I've ever had. The unending emotional, personal, physical, and financial support of my loving girlfriend is the reason why I've had the opportunity to take this time that I've needed to discover more about myself and try to understand just what the hell has been happening. I owe her so much. I hope that in the near future I can start paying her back. I'm not having any dark thoughts. I've had them before, I admit it. I distinctly recall 3 times in my life that I've thought, I'm just not strong enough to deal with life anymore. The last one was actually pretty recently. However, this time around, I can happily and honestly say it's starting to feel more like discovery than anything else. More like I'm seeing the other side of the moon. It's like I'm finally seeing my struggle from a different perspective for the first time in 20 years. I acknowledge that this perspective is very new to me, and I don't have some grand expectation that this is the miracle fix I've dreamed of. What I do finally have is a chance to maybe look at this whole thing a bit differently, maybe arm myself with some new tools and practices to help me persevere. Right now, that's a really accurate word to describe the whole thing. Persevere. For the past while, I have existed, not lived. I've gotten by, definitely not excelled. I've done the bare minimum to survive, and even that's been really hard. I understand I won't get fixed overnight. I understand that I have to progress from existing to getting by, to doing enough, to doing a bit more, to doing more, and hopefully, eventually, doing well, I'm thriving. In the past at least 3 years, whenever someone has asked me, how you doing? I've answered with a sincere, I'm great, fewer than 5 times in 3 years plus. In a period of even longer than that, probably 5+ years, I've had one heart-to-heart conversation, real conversation, with another guy that's not related to me. He lives in a different city, and he's the first real, new real friend I've made in all that time. When we had that heart-to-heart, I happened to be in his city for other reasons, and I racked my brain for days and days trying to find a reason to visit and a way to segue from small talk to tell him what I was so desperate to tell him. That I considered him a friend, and I was so grateful for the connection we'd had and the things we'd bonded over and the comfortability to be myself that he provided me. I almost canceled about 20 times for so many reasons. I was too nervous, afraid I'd be dismissed, just terrified I'd be judged for any multitude of reasons that I would just make up in my head. Scared to be vulnerable with someone I didn't really even know that well. I think I was just so desperate for the connection I felt to be validated, and maybe didn't want to risk like rocking the boat and talk about it, address it, and have it turn out that I made it up in my head. And as most times in my head, I'm always afraid I'd get too emotional, and especially because I'm a guy. It's not how guys are supposed to act. I'm endlessly thankful that I found the courage to talk to him that day. I told him how much I appreciated our friendship. I opened up about my mental illness. I cried. He cried. We hugged. He understands that I might text him once a month or 60 times a week. He understands we might only get to hang out a couple times a year. But that's the key word. He understands. And if he's watching this, thanks. Okay. Whenever I usually see a long, daunting task ahead of me, usually I just kind of crumble, put together a plan, do it for a couple days, and then it's gone. And right now I don't have a perfect plan. I don't have much of a plan at all right now. But I sat down and put these words to paper. And I cried again. And I shared them with my girlfriend, and we cried together. And I felt something, though. I felt growth. I felt us evolving. Having these realizations, I think, is a step in the right direction. And sharing this with my friends and my family, I'm hoping will give them the insight into my life that I'm pretty sure they've been hoping for quite a while now. When you feel like I do, you kind of climb up about it. You say you're fine and everything's good. You talk about the things that you think are good, the things that you are grateful for. Talk about things that you think about that are good. And you usually pawn them off as having actually happened. This new perspective that I'm gaining has helped to establish some specifics that in the past I just kind of passed off as I'm broken and I have depression and that's just the way it is. I've always been a huge believer in understanding the why of things. Is one of the best ways to truly understand any problem, solution, or any situation, really. I look forward to my sessions with my counselor. I never had before. I always dreaded them. I'm looking forward to hopefully maybe discovering some of the whys of my current struggle. I feel this new perspective can be broken down into a simple statement. I'm not depressed. I'm not anxious. I'm scared. I'm scared. All the time. I'm not scared for my life. I don't feel any physical danger on a daily basis. But my brain tells me to be scared. Every minute of every day. I'm scared that my girlfriend will get tired of dealing with me and she'll leave. I'm scared that my family and loved ones judge me harshly for the decisions that I've made and judge me on the decisions that I constantly judge myself on. I'm scared that my family just thinks I should try harder and doesn't understand. But how could they? They don't really know what's going on with me. I'm scared that I haven't done enough with my life. I'm scared that my family and loved ones are ashamed of me. I'm scared that I've let my father down. I'm scared of talking and interacting with children, any children, even ones that I love dearly. They tend to point out the things that you're most insecure about without even realizing it. They don't know how devastating it can be to someone like me. I'm scared of being wrong in a conversation with a coworker or colleague and that I appear stupid and as though I don't know what I'm talking about. I would so very often triple and quadruple check my work before I had any conversation with a coworker about it, just to make extra sure I wouldn't look stupid. I'm scared of saying the wrong thing to someone, anyone, and have that person stew and dwell on it and resent me without me ever even knowing it. I'm scared that a stranger at the grocery store will take one look at me and judge me as fat and lazy and worthless. I'm scared that when I'm driving, someone turns down the same side street that I do. That instantly means that I've done something wrong, and they're about to give me shit for it. I'm scared that I'll say something wrong and give off a bad impression on someone, anyone, maybe even a bad first impression, and then I've tarnished that relationship forever. When people send me a text message that doesn't have an emoji in it, I'm triggered to be scared that they're actually upset with me and just not saying so. I'm scared of answering an unexpected phone call as I begin to assume I've done something wrong and that they're calling me to chew me out and make me feel bad for it. I'm scared that I've alienated anyone that's ever considered me a friend through my mood swings and my waves of negativity and silence and absence. I'm scared to ever even try to make new friends, as I fear that they'll never understand what I go through and to just move on. And I wouldn't even blame them. I'm scared that I'll fall into a personal rut so bad that I'll never get out of it. I'm scared of not being seen as interesting. I'm always scared that whatever I'm doing at any moment just isn't what I should be doing. I'm scared that I use my mental health as a shield and an excuse to remove myself from any situation I'm not comfortable with. I'm scared that my mental health controls my life and that I'm just not strong enough to deal with it effectively. I'm scared of being myself and somehow annoying people. And all this, at the same time, I'm scared of anything that isn't logical, which includes everything I just listed to you. I know that so many of them, maybe even all of them, don't make sense. Basically, I'm scared that I'm scared. I'm trying to make that make sense. I'm scared of all these things, and I don't use scared lightly here. All of these things and more actually cause me to react, usually with a fight or flight instinct. I get flushed, panicked, my heart rate goes up. I have the sudden desire to run or remove myself from the situation, or maybe even somehow try to fix it, but damned if I know how. I'm scared of all these things because there's a large part of me that thinks they're all true. All of them at the same time. And that part of me almost always wins the conflict in my head. Roll all of that together and then throw in some ADHD. Add an overactive brain that overthinks and overanalyzes everything. an overactive brain that seems to lack any ability to correct or fix these flaws. This is my never-ending cycle, my struggle, and my own personal hell that I can't escape from. Over the years, I've laid out many different plans, lifestyle changes, and nothing has stuck. I'm back here again and again, and it's torture. When you boil it down, I'm not living with depression. I'm not living with anxiety. I'm living in fear. Every minute of every day about virtually everything. I wrote this in just over an hour. It started with a short list of those fears I just rattled off to you, and that was it. I sat down about a week ago to expand on the list a little bit, and this entire thing just poured out of me like a faucet. I've added to it here and there, and I sat on it for over a week deciding on what I wanted to do with it. The human brain is a complicated and scary thing. The world is scary. Mental illness is scary. But there's one thing that, while it may not actively help, is kind of comforting. And that I know that I'm not alone. If you made it to the end, thank you for being here, listening to my story. If you've ever watched one of my videos, you know how it usually ends with my outro. But this time, we need to be strong, but there's so much negativity in this world that fuels the malfunctioning circuits in brains like mine. Just be kind. You probably know someone who goes through stuff like me. Give them a hug. Don't try and fix things. Because if they're anything like me, they don't know what they need. They don't know how to fix it. Everyone's going to be different. But just reach out. We're social beings and we need connection. People like me are terrified of fucking up that connection. Just reach out. Maybe make it quick, but make it heartfelt. They need you so bad. tell them that you're thinking about them and that you're there for them. It'll probably make them cry, but probably in a good way. Just be there. I love you all.